Hello, this is Frank, and you're watching Frank's Home Remodeling Journey. So today I wanted to show you how I installed the garage door. And this is my new garage door. It looks pretty good. And I'm not going to show you exactly how I installed it because there's a whole bunch of how-to videos on how to do this kind of stuff. But I do want to show some important things about how one of these things is put together, and some advice about how to do it as a do-it-yourself kind of person. First thing you have to do is really understand the instructions. The instructions are extremely important. And I went through the instructions, I got them online, and I even highlighted the parts of the instructions that were applicable to my specific section. And that's important because when it comes time to assemble it, it'll go a lot quicker. You'll recognize what all the parts really are, and you'll be able to see what they, you'll be able to kind of figure out what all the parts are and be able to put things together pretty quickly. The other thing that's important, however, is that sometimes the instructions are wrong. And I know it's hard to believe, but frequently you'll find that there are little errors in the instructions, and unless you are familiar with how it goes together and really understand it, you won't be able to progress very far. I'll give you an example. See this over here? This is a stiffener, and the stiffener over here has a hole. So the hole was misplaced from where I needed to put the bolts. So after about half an hour of trying to fiddle about and trying to figure out what happened or what to do, I finally went to the internet and I took my instructions that were in PDF format and I blew them up to about 200,000% so I could see exactly where these went. And then I just drilled little holes and put them in. So sometimes you got to be smarter. This is what's called a torsion spring. A torsion spring is a lifting mechanism with the springs that actually help you lift the door. The door is very heavy. And the thing in the center, which I got, which is really handy, is a little winding mechanism. You put a socket onto your drill and you move that around and it will wind it for you. It took me about a minute to wind it. I didn't have to worry about manhandling the springs. They're all exactly torsioned the exact same way, and it was a lot safer. So that was $35 worth of wonderfulness that I certainly don't regret getting. The other thing about putting a door together is you will need help putting the panels in. You can probably, I did, this is a heavy door, I manhandled these panels all around to get the hardware on there, but when it came time to actually stack them up, because you see you have to stack them up, you have to put them inside of the track over here. And if you just can't lift one of these things up by yourself, you need two people to do it. So when it comes time to actually assemble the door onto the frame, you really have to do that with two people. Another feature that I got is one of these really nifty garage door openers. This garage door opener works with a torsion spring, and as you can see, I do not have a big hunky garage door opener in the middle of my ceiling anymore. I have a nice little light, which is remote controlled, but there is the lift mechanism. And the lift mechanism is pretty easy to set up. I ended up screwing things up a little bit because I didn't notice you have these optical switches in the bottom, and I did not notice that I had knocked one loose and it wasn't lining up anymore, so that caused me some troubleshooting I had to do to get the door to align properly. Last thing about alignment is a door needs to operate without binding, and so you really need to take your time to align these tracks. It's not as hard as you think. The tracks themselves are very adjustable. They all have slots, and the key here is to leave these relatively loose while you put the door together, And then as the door kind of comes together, you check to make sure that you have the right clearances, everything's plumb and square, it usually will come together pretty easily. I had to adjust mine a couple of times after I made it go up and down a little bit, because it's difficult to measure over large distances. But once I did that, it worked out pretty well. And so it's time to open the door with my handy little LiftMaster here. There it is, really nice. Did make one little mistake over here. This was adjusted too close to the lip seal over here, so it tore the seal. That's not a big deal. Those things, you can replace them pretty easily. I did readjust it, and everything else looked pretty good. So I think we're set. Very nice installation, and you know what? It looks really good. Looks really, really good. I like it a lot. Makes the house look good. What are you stopping for? That wasn't very nice. So here was the problem. Find out why you stopped. Turns out that I had the sender and receiver on the wrong side. So you take a look at this. If you can see, that is that's the sender. And the sender over here, let me adjust this just a little bit. The sender can send light, and that's fine. It's infrared light, actually. And just so long as it goes to this big fisheye in the receiver over here, and the light's green, everything will work fine. The problem is that if the receiver is on the other side, take a look. There's a bunch of sunlight shining in there. And so the receiver in the afternoon will always get confused, because it will not be able to see the infrared of the sensor because of the sunlight. So I meant to install it correctly, but I got confused. I didn't, so I had to use these little splicers to cut the wires and switch things around. Now everything though works pretty well. Really a nice setup. Let's demonstrate for everybody. See, nice and smooth that was. Beautiful. Looks really good. Thanks for watching.